The moment the wedding doors opened, something felt terribly wrong, and every guest sensed it before a single truth was revealed. White roses lined the aisle, soft music filled the grand hall in Charleston, South Carolina, and yet the bride's eyes held a storm no veil could hide. What was meant to be the happiest day of Grace Whitmore's life was about to become the day her silence finally shattered, and everyone who had underestimated her would learn just how dangerous a broken heart could be. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of truth, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Grace had grown up believing love was patience, sacrifice, and endurance. Raised in a modest neighborhood in Ohio, she was the kind of woman who learned early to put others first. When she met Andrew Keller, everything about him felt like destiny. He was polished, confident, and came from a family whose name carried weight in New York's elite circles. Andrew's charm made her feel chosen, special, and safe. When he proposed, promising a future filled with loyalty and respect, Grace ignored the quiet warnings in her chest. She believed love meant trusting even when doubts whispered at night. The engagement changed everything. Andrew's parents, Margaret and Thomas Keller, never hid their disappointment. Grace was not from the right family, not educated at the right schools, not connected enough. Their smiles were thin, their compliments sharp-edged. Still, Grace endured it all in silence, hoping time would soften their hearts. What hurt more was how Andrew slowly began changing too, becoming distant, distracted, and impatient whenever she expressed concern. He blamed work, stress, and family expectations, and Grace blamed herself. The truth was far crueler. Hidden behind closed doors and whispered phone calls was Lauren Price, a woman Andrew had known long before Grace. Lauren came from wealth, influence, and the exact world the Kellers worshipped. While Grace planned seating charts and flower arrangements, Lauren was already woven into the Keller family's future. Margaret adored her, Thomas approved of her, and they all agreed Grace was nothing more than a temporary mistake. Grace discovered the affair weeks before the wedding, on a quiet evening when Andrew left his phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. The messages were undeniable, intimate, and devastating. Her hands shook as she scrolled, each word slicing deeper than the last. She confronted Andrew that night, not with anger, but with a quiet ache. He denied nothing. Instead, he asked her to understand, to be patient, to not ruin everything. He spoke of family pressure, of expectations, of timing, as if betrayal were a scheduling conflict. He promised the affair would end after the wedding. Grace did not sleep that night, or many nights after. She considered leaving, canceling everything, disappearing before the humiliation could swallow her whole. But something inside her changed. She realized that silence had only protected those who hurt her. If she walked away quietly, the truth would be buried, and she would carry the shame alone. So she decided that if this wedding was built on lies, then the truth deserved to stand at the altar too. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and ruthless beauty. Guests filled the grand hall, cameras flashed, and whispers of admiration followed Grace as she walked down the aisle. Andrew stood waiting, handsome and composed, playing his role flawlessly. Margaret and Thomas sat proudly in the front row, already convinced they had won. Lauren sat several rows back, confident and unafraid, dressed in elegance and entitlement. As the ceremony progressed, Grace felt strangely calm. Her heart no longer raced with fear but with clarity. When the moment came for final words, she stepped forward, holding not a bouquet but her dignity. She revealed everything, not with rage, but with devastating honesty. She exposed the affair, the manipulation, the cruelty of her in-laws, and the months of emotional betrayal she had endured. Screens lit up behind her, displaying evidence she had prepared quietly and carefully. Gasps rippled through the hall like a shockwave. Margaret's face drained of color. Thomas stood frozen. Lauren's confidence shattered into panic. Andrew reached for Grace, but she stepped back, finally free. What no one expected was the silence that followed, heavy and absolute. Then a man stood up from the back of the hall, someone most guests had barely noticed. His name was Jonathan Reed, a reserved, silver-haired man with calm eyes and quiet authority. Few knew that Jonathan was not just a guest, but the true financier behind Keller Industries, the billionaire investor who had built Andrew's family fortune from the shadows. He had been invited out of obligation, underestimated like Grace had been. Jonathan walked forward slowly, his presence commanding without force. He spoke not in defense of Andrew, but in judgment of him. He revealed that the company, the wealth, the power the Kellers clung to, were all contingent on integrity. And integrity, he declared, had been utterly destroyed. In that moment, Jonathan announced that he was withdrawing his support, severing ties with the Keller family entirely. The empire they had guarded so fiercely collapsed in a single breath. Grace stood stunned, tears finally falling, not from pain, but from release. Jonathan turned to her with respect and compassion, acknowledging her courage. He spoke of his late wife, of betrayal he had once endured, and of the cost of silence. He told the room that Grace's strength had reminded him why he built his success on values, not vanity. The wedding ended not with vows, but with truth. Guests left quietly, carrying the weight of what they had witnessed. Andrew's world unraveled in days. The family name lost its shine, the company crumbled, and Lauren disappeared from their lives as quickly as she had entered. Grace walked away with nothing material, yet she had never felt richer in spirit. In the weeks that followed, Grace struggled with the aftermath. Public humiliation does not vanish overnight, and healing is not instant. She moved to a small coastal town in North Carolina, seeking peace and anonymity. She rebuilt her life slowly, working with women's advocacy groups, sharing her story to help others find their voices. Pain transformed into purpose, and purpose into quiet joy. Jonathan stayed in touch, not as a savior, but as a supporter. He funded Grace's nonprofit work, believing in her mission without controlling it. Grace learned that true kindness never demands obedience. It only offers space to grow. Years later, Grace would look back on that day not as the end of her life, but as its beginning. She learned that love without respect is not love at all, that silence can be a prison, and that courage often appears only when there is nothing left to lose. Her story became a reminder that even in the most public heartbreak, dignity can rise, and truth can heal. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or gave you hope in a difficult moment, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and stay connected with our channel. Your engagement means more than you know. Before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they help build a community of understanding and compassion. Grace Whitmore did not walk down that aisle to be saved by a billionaire or applauded by strangers. She walked it to save herself. And in doing so, she proved that sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is tell the truth, even when the whole world is watching.